Battlefield 2018 sniping. I thought today we'd discuss what the system could look like in the future of the franchise, because in the last few Battlefield games we've had some differing directions implemented for us to use, and I think all of them have their merits and their downfalls. Battlefield 3 and 4 were perhaps the more conventional systems that Battlefield gamers were used to. Hardline balancing was quite different to that, and Battlefield 1 almost redesigned the sniping concept and introduced new values that players had to consider. So without further ado, let's get into it. The current system in Battlefield 1 is perhaps the biggest change to the sniping mechanics the franchise has seen for about 3 or 4 games. It introduced a new bullet mechanic, bullet drag, and implemented a sweet spot mechanic. The drag value impacts on the bullet by slowing it down the longer it fires, almost acting like wind resistance. The further the bullet flies, the slower it travels, and thus, leading targets at extreme long range becomes quite difficult. Now, this was likely implemented to try and subtly force scout players to close the gap a little bit more between themselves and their target and eliminate some of that ingrained camping nature. Now, the sweet spot mechanic, I feel, was implemented to make the task of landing the one-hit kill somewhat easier for new players who have so many other things to consider at the same time. If you're in a 64-person server, the last thing you want to be worrying about as a brand new player is if your crosshairs are close enough to the head of that player so you get a one-hit kill. Now, aiming for the centre of mass, that's the upper torso, and of course you can still aim for the head if you want to, that will likely result in you killing that player with an extremely powerful shot. At the right range, you will be able to pull off a one-shot kill to the upper torso, and the game does a good job at making kills feel very satisfying as well, which of course is a bonus. The differing headshot kill confirmation sound as well adds something to the sniping in Battlefield 1, similar to the headshot sound in Bad Company 2. Landing headshots in that game was really awesome, and in Battlefield 1, I get that same feeling when I do that. The sweet spot and the increased bullet velocity overall in Battlefield 1, they succeed in making sniping easier to start and get into for a novice player. And in the beginning, in the first few months of Battlefield 1, I don't think the more experienced players could argue that it felt very nice as well. The overall feeling of sniping in Battlefield 1 is really good and very slick. The issue you have here, though, something that's been created to remove an older barrier to entry, is that the more experienced players find the Battlefield 1 system quite easy to use, and perhaps not as rewarding as previous systems. That's a complaint I've heard from many players of Battlefield 1, and I see it quite often in my comments section as well. Battlefield 1 sniping can be really fun, but there's a possibility that the longevity of it, the pull to keep coming back for more experienced players, is somewhat missing. And because the system is inherently easier than the one that came before it, many more normal players, or people who've only just come into Battlefield 1, are now sticking with the Scout class and the powerful rifles. It's very clear in Battlefield 1 that Scout is a very popular class, and when you look at the mechanics assisting you along the way, you can totally understand why. Moving backwards to Battlefield Hardline very briefly, and this information comes from a member of Ascend, they feel that the balancing in that game rewarded skill with those weapons more so than Battlefield 1. Hardline didn't have a sweet spot mechanic. The Scout Elite rifle, before it was nerfed, had a maximum 75 damage shot to the chest, but always had a one-hit kill to the head, without fail. This rewarded accurate players who could consistently land headshots, but hitting in the chest still did significant damage overall. Hardline's overall weapon balance was quite different, however, from the game that came before it, Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4 was perhaps the last game in the Battlefield series to use a system that players were already used to or had seen before in another game. Both Battlefield Hardline and Battlefield 1 presented quite different systems. Rifles in this game all started at their maximum damage point out to a short distance, and then started to fall in damage steadily over distance until they hit a minimum damage value. Landing a headshot would more than double the damage of the bullet at the range that the headshot landed on its target. Let's say the M98B did 76 damage at 50 meters, but you landed a headshot. The bullet damage was multiplied by 2.3 equaling 175 damage rounded up, meaning you'd be killing a player in one shot easily. This system rewarded accuracy directly as it incentivized recon players to aim for the head. The body and torso multiplier for sniper bullets was 1, so the value didn't go up and the value didn't go down. If you wanted a one-hit kill, it had to be a headshot. The disadvantage of a system like this, of course, is that you needed to be extremely accurate to be landing headshots consistently. Moving targets are hard to hit at the best of times due to Battlefield bullets having proper travel time on them, but then add in that you had to try and kill the moving target in one shot, you had to land the bullet in their skull. For new players, this is something that would probably take a little bit of time to adjust to, and might not actually make total sense. A sniper bullet flying at huge speed and smashing through someone's chest, likely doing mega damage, isn't a kill? You can probably see why that might cause some issues for brand new players. Now personally, I enjoy sniping in Battlefield 1. The overall sensation of landing those kill shots is very satisfying, but that kill confirmation is something that runs across all classes in Battlefield 1. I just like the way that the game gives you that feedback and makes you feel like you did something that you were supposed to do. And that's an enjoyable thing in a first-person shooter because, of course, if you kill somebody, you get to go and try and kill the next person and the next person. If you go on a streak, that feels really nice, and doing that with a sniper rifle in Battlefield 1 is very satisfying. The underlying sweet spot mechanic is something that you have to consider if you want to be landing one-shot kills at varying distances, but then you need to use the rifle at those distances to be effective. So sometimes you might choose one rifle, and then the engagement range changes, and you haven't got the right rifle. So you still have to think about it in a certain way. But for more experienced players, and I consider myself one of those, I could use a greater challenge, and I'm sure there are many more players out there who could do with a bit more of a challenge as well. I also like Battlefield 4's system as it directly encourages somebody to work on their accuracy. They have to play as the recon class, use the rifles, learn their respective attributes in order to know which rifle suits the situation better than others. The focus on headshots for me is a good thing, but overall, the feeling just isn't there like it is in Battlefield 1 in the moment. I will say, however, that the increased difficulty is something I appreciate more than the overall feeling. Battlefield 4 made me feel like I'd accomplished something long-term by getting those long-range headshots with sniper rifles, because I'd had to learn how the rifle worked in order to get those shots to execute properly. And that's something that stayed with me longer than the, well, I don't know how to describe it, maybe just the flash in the pan feeling that Battlefield 1 gives you after each kill. I can still remember some really awesome kills that I landed in Battlefield 4, but I'd be racking my brains for ages if you asked me to do the same for Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 gives you that instant feeling, but kind of goes away quickly because you know you're going to get that feeling again when you get your next kill. For Battlefield 4, you didn't get that feeling all the time, but if you landed a really awesome headshot, then you were going to remember it for a long time because it takes skill to do what you just did. Now, for Battlefield 2018, I'd like to see DICE potentially combine both of these methods and bring together the theatre and instant feeling that Battlefield 1 offers, alongside some more challenging, rewarding mechanics from Battlefield 4. A renewed focus on headshots and torso shots could work, with a slightly increased torso multiplier instead of an overall sweet spot damage increase like we see in Battlefield 1. With headshot and torso hit multipliers being slightly elevated, there might still be a chance for you to land those one-shot kills to the torso, but you'd need to know which weapon would work in the right environment. But those are my thoughts, and it would be interesting to know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts on sniping in Battlefield games down below in the comments section, because you never know. DICE could be listening to what we're saying, and our thoughts and opinions could have some influence on what they're making right now in those Stockholm offices. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying my Battlefield 2018 series, and if you've got any suggestions for videos that I could do on Battlefield 2018, make sure you leave those down in the comments section as well. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.